thought, the way the person thinks, and also the behavior.
Yes.
And for you to be diagnosed with clinical depression, you have to have had for at least 2 weeks, almost every day, almost every hour, feeling sadness, emptiness, or even tearing for no reason, or loss of interest, or loss of interest in pleasure, you know, those two. And then you see all these other things that flow from there. Somebody is thinking about committing suicide. Somebody is irritable, is very, 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 very moody, trouble concentrating, trouble sleeping, you know, and feeling guilt, all that, and also unexplained, you know, pains in different parts of the body, and so on and so forth. So it is that bad. And once it gets to somebody, then, as I've said, their functioning in significant areas of their life is very much impaired. And as you have said, WHO has said that there are that number of people, 300 million people depressed. And Professor Dete of the University of Nairobi, who is an expert in this, in the issue of mental health, has said that 1 in every 10 Kenyans could be depressed enough to commit suicide.
Wow, 1 in every 10. Wow.
Also, many experts say that in Kenya we have about 1.9 diagnosed cases of depression. And that's an understatement because, as I've said, the stigma around this, we don't have a lot of people who know what depression is, and so the numbers are certainly higher than that.
Okay, now looking at the age group, I don't know if age has a role to play when it comes to the cases of depression that we are seeing in this day and time, at least those that have been diagnosed, and from interaction with, you know, this whole conversation and from the people that you have interacted, is there a specific age group that is mostly affected by depression?
Depression can affect people of any age, but mostly you get around from 20 years onwards. You find a lot of cases around that. 20, 30, 44, thereabout. Children also do get depressed, and they manifest more or less like adults, but a little bit different. But as people get older, say 70, 80, it begins to be more serious and more common among them. And as if we have noted in your introduction, women are more likely to
develop a depressive disorder. Wow. Now, looking at some of these triggers that would contribute to depression or trigger it, because I also understand there is a genetic predisposition when it comes to depression. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about that for the benefit of our viewers.
Yes. So one is that one. There's genetic predisposition. That is to say that it runs in the family. And it's, as we say locally, we say it's in the blood. So one who has depression has to check their family tree to see whether they have any relative who is struggling with that or has ever struggled with that. The other things that cause depression are, you know, the usual social, you know, setbacks, like a divorce, like job loss, your business goes bust, you get a very bad diagnosis that you have a very, you know, bad disease, and those kind of things. And as you can see during this period of COVID, those kind of things, people have lost jobs, people have died, so there's grief and loss, which is another very big contributor to this. And of course, there are, like in genetic predisposition, we have these neurotransmitters in the brain, because the whole thing about depression and other mood disorders is about chemical imbalance in the brain. And so sometimes the levels of neurotransmitters, you know, go down or go high, and then we have problems. Now, for those who may be going through depression and they are not aware that this could actually be depression, I know you had touched on a few signs and symptoms that you need to look out for, but maybe you could give us more detailed information in regards to the signs and symptoms that we need to look out for, because some of these are so masked by other daily activities that we may be doing, and we are not keen to notice that this could be pointing to depression. And depression also is a symptom in many other mental health
disorders. Okay.
Like schizophrenia, bipolar, schizophrenia, affective disorder, and all those. So you have all those. As I've said, there is feelings of sadness and emptiness. There is loss of appetite, or increment in appetite. Sleep.
A sudden loss or increment?
Yes.
Or it happens gradually?
Gradually. Like you have to have been there for at least 2 weeks for you to qualify. So somebody begins to lose appetite, or to have very high appetite, unusual from the baseline they have, or somebody may start to have a lot of sleep, or very little sleep, or very disturbed sleep, whereby somebody wakes up so many times at night and all that, and that's not their usual. Okay, trouble concentrating on things, making decisions, following an issue through. All those are problems there. And I've said and explained pains, guilt, and this is scary for depression, suicide ideation. That is people thinking about death. Some people would have just thought about it and that's it. Or they would have thought about it and even have a plan. Or some would have followed through with the plans, attempted suicide even, and all that. So we have all those things there. Yeah. So if you have 5 of those, you qualify.
Okay.
Yeah, you qualify to be clinically depressed. Yeah.
Now there comes in also another concern when it comes to the prognosis and diagnosing of depression, because many a times people don't even go to the professionals. You go to a friend, you go to a family member, and they just keep telling you, oh, hold on, things will be okay. You're not even given treatment that you might be needing to manage the depression.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting professional diagnosis, what would be your advice to this?
Once somebody feels they have this, or a relative observes they are on with this kind of problem, they should go for professional counselor.
Yes.
Professional counselor, psychiatrist, psychologist. Let them go there and have the person evaluated or assessed to make sure that it is clinical depression. Because again, as I've said, there could be other things there involved, like drug abuse.
Yes.
We can have a depression that is induced by drug abuse, or another medical condition. Somebody may be sick from something else, and then that triggers depression. We want this to be pure depression. So when you go to the counselor, somebody is qualified.
Yes.
They will assess you. They use instruments even, like the famous BDI, Beck Depression Inventory, which is a tool which helps counselors to be able to make sure that this person has depression or not, and other techniques that they use. And once then you are diagnosed, then it's very easy for a good counselor to start a program of your recovery, counseling and all that kind of a thing, and goal setting and all that.
Yes. Now, when it comes to seeking treatment, I know most of us are, or rather those who have been through depressive episodes, we tend to get help when things are already considered extreme. At what stage should one consider seeking medical assistance when it comes to depression? Because some say, you'll overcome, give yourself some time, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, journey through that with your feelings. But at what point should one seek medical attention to address depression?
Because this is an illness, the same question can be asked. If you are feeling like you are malaria, how quick should you go, start, seeking treatment?
Yeah.
So once somebody begins to see their life disrupted in one way or the other by this, you should go straight away and get, because like many other things, once you start treatment early, the better you are likely to be, to be helped successfully.
Now, for most people who fear seeking treatment, in the earlier stages when it can still be, handled without much damage, issues to do with stereotyping are what hinder so many people from seeking medical attention when it comes to depression, because again, there's these tags and naming that goes around with conversations involving mental health, illnesses, and awareness. Coming to stereotyping, how can we as a society be more sensitive and aware at the challenges that stereotyping continues to pile on issues or conversations rather about mental wellness.
Yeah, I think having conversations like this, many more conversations like this in the public domain will help a lot. Just like, for example, we used to have, we have HIV/AIDS.
Yes.
Remember the stigma that came with it. But over the years, because people have discussed all this, it's less the case. I remember when COVID came, one of our own back in the diocese got it. And people were very frantic there and talking and doing all sorts of things, just because it was something very new. But now, we're having spent almost a year with COVID,
yes,
people now know how to cope with it, and when they hear so-and-so has COVID, it's not a very big deal like it used to be. So I think a lot of discussion needs to happen about this, because it's a sickness. It's a sickness, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah, because we are what? As human beings, we are body and soul. We are body and mind. The body gets sick. We know that. We get injection, we get medication. But also the mind and the soul also get sick.
Okay.
Yeah, and we need to be able to accept that and know that the treatment is there and people can get well again.
Now, looking at the church, because they also have a huge role to play when it comes to shaping the opinions of the society, and in line with this whole conversation about mental health awareness and illnesses, as being part of the Diocese of Kitui, what role do you feel that the church can come in when it comes to making these conversations about mental health awarenesses and illnesses a conversation that is not uncomfortable?
Yes, the church, I think, can play a very big role. The church has a very big audience weekly, and they can have a lot of impact there. So if the church comes to understand, because that's another thing, do the church personnel, that's the church personnel, the pastors and the priests and other people, are they familiar with this?
Yes.
Because some will demonize it and say it's a demonic possession. That's another thing, Jen, that is bringing us, drawing us backwards when it comes to mental health. There are people there, they are not trained in mental health, but they come and see somebody with depression or trauma or PTSD or bipolar, and all they say is there's a demon in this person. This person needs to be exorcised. That's not true. That's not true. Okay, there's a place for demonic possession. But you see, some of these mental health issues present like typical, demonic possession or demonic oppression.
Yeah.
So there's that delineation. So the church personnel need to also get some education on this. Yes, coming back to your question, sure, the church can have, but like for example myself, when I go to my congregation, after I preach or in the middle of preaching, I'll get in there and start talking about whatever I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
Depression. You can be depressed, and there's nothing wrong with that. Come for counseling and all that. And many people come to me, and I will refer them to other counselors. I will handle them. What I realize that the more people know the truth, the more they are likely to seek help.
Okay.
The more they silence around this, the more stigma will get strong. And also, the bigger the problem continues to be. It's a silent killer and a tormentor.
All right. Yeah. Now, in line with seeking treatment, there are a number of treatment options that are available, depending with the intensity or the degree to which, one has been afflicted. What are some of those that our viewers need to be aware of when it comes to treatment options that are available for depression?
Good question. Yes, help is there. I think that's a big message you want to try to drive home here, that depression has a solution. Depression is a human condition. It has been studied world over. There's a lot of literature on what it is and what can be done. And so we do have treatment modalities from, depression can be mild, moderate, or severe. From moderate to severe, that's where disruption of one's life is more remarkable. So at that time now, somebody can get help, and help can come in two ways.
Okay.
One can get psychotherapy, which is another big name for counseling, good counseling, professional counseling. Another one is medication. Antidepressants, many drugs are in the market. So these drugs cannot be, prescribed over the counter.
Over the counter,
They
yeah.
have to be prescribed by an expert. And so those two are there for people. Psychotherapy, because sometimes if you find somebody who is severely depressed, that person can hardly talk. Yes, you have heard me say there's always an issue with concentration and cognition. Thought process is very disrupted. When the person is that severe, you may need some medication to improve the mood and bring back cognition so that you can now dialogue with this particular person. Other times, a combination of both, counseling and a medication at the same time.
Yes.
Or just counseling and medication and counseling again.
All right.
Right.
Now, just yesterday, there was a story here on the Daily Nation, you know, just looking at the fact that when it comes to violence that we are seeing in this day and time, it has been linked in one way or the other, and especially among the youth, to pharmacists who are selling over-the-counter medication that are supposed to be for managing some of these mental health illnesses that we are seeing. When it comes to understanding the role that they have to play in the management and abuse of drugs that are meant to be for assisting mental health illnesses, and now they are using them for and distributing them to the young people as recreational drugs.
That's a responsibility of those kind of people. As I've said, these, say, antidepressants and other psychoactive medication can only be prescribed by somebody who is licensed to do so. So those who are giving young people these kind of drugs must be quacks, or people who know about this medication, but they are not licensed to do it, because some of it can be very addictive. For example, for anxiety, they can be very addictive. So you need somebody who knows how to prescribe them and monitor them and guide them to give them in right doses, right time, so that help can come.
It can manage what it is intended for.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's an abuse.
It's an
abuse.
Yes.
Just like we know in this country, we are not supposed to give alcohol to, or to sell alcohol to underage. But you find some people, unscrupulous people, doing that. So in this area also, it sounds like there are also people who are doing that.
We need to do better as a population, especially because you find these are people who are of legal age, and they're the ones who are perpetrating this just to make an extra coin.
Right.
Now, as we draw this conversation to a close, as a clinical psychologist, what are some of those lifestyle changes you would advise one to adapt, especially if they have been through a depressive episode of one intensity or the other, that they can adapt for themselves to help them cope with life and triggers that come along in life, because you can't always control every situation, but to control yourself so that when a trigger happens to present itself, it doesn't send you over the edge.
So, like other mental health issues, depression can drive somebody to drinking. Many people cope with depression and other mental health issues through drinking. You know, alcohol and other drugs. They take other drugs to feel good and just for a moment and all that. So I would say if somebody has had an episode of depression, let them not try to mask it with drugs. Do a lot of exercise, be out there, be with friends, be people who can affirm you. If you're in an abusive relationship, get out of there and take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Eat well, dress well, go for sports, do what you feel like doing, which you enjoy. Do not just be cornered there and just being sorry of yourself and sleeping a lot and eating a lot. No, get out there, do exercise, meet friends, meet people, be with the family. That kind of exposure out there helps a lot in this. That's why COVID is a curse when it comes to that, because it limits social interaction. Social interaction limits social interaction, which are very good. That's why we had a lot of issues with these restrictions some time ago as churches, because when people are closed like that, there's lockdown for a very long time. People with mental health issues suffer a lot because they need community, they need family, they need friends to be able to socialization in order to be able to feel good.
All right.
So that would be my prescription.
All right. Now, as we close this particular conversation, there are also those who try to sort of wean themselves off medication that they may have been prescribed to manage some of these conditions that are, or other symptoms that are related to depression. Is it advisable to try and wean yourself off the medication without your doctor's go-ahead?
I would not advise that. Of course, like any other medication that are prescribed, for example, for diabetes or blood pressure, you should not wean yourself out of that. You have to be in very close liaison with your caretaker,
yes,
who is your counselor, your psychologist, your psychotherapist, so that they can tell when you can stop taking drugs or continue taking drugs. To do it yourself, you are risking. You are risking because once the drugs don't stop working or they are not in your system, you don't know what will happen. This thing can explode and take you to levels that you never expected to.
All right.
So it's not advisable.
It is not advisable to wean yourself if you haven't gotten the go-ahead from your medical guide. And that is all the time we had for this particular conversation. But then again, as I always say, this is not a conversation that we can exhaust in one sitting. We'll be having subsequent discussions. Just try and make conversations around mental wellness and awareness a norm. And, you know, we won't be dealing with issues to do with depression that is not addressed. We have been speaking with Father Francis Ngogo, who also holds a master's in counseling psychology. Thank you once again for making time to be with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. More of Good Morning Kenya does continue. We do appreciate your feedback. Nana Nyoike akisema depression is real, and I think introverts are worst hit by this. Again, we are here to help normalize these conversations. Stay with us. More coming up.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka kwenye Quickbit ni la bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Poor Constanza. She decided not to marry Max because, well, she preferred the school professor, Salvador, right? But 5 years ago, she threw away her chance to have become a Montesinos because she didn't want to abandon you. When you had a mistress, a kept woman.
Since you've been asking me so many times, then fine.
Yes, yes.
You can't wait for the surprise?
No.
All right. We're getting married.
What?
Constanza is the only one who matters to me. And to spare her from suffering, I would do anything. Even leave you all, which is what I'm doing now.
Just what is it that made you decide to leave Nescafe?
Our next link-up segment will be looking at what is happening along Kirinyaga Road, simply because it is one of those slip roads that has also benefited from the reconstruction process, that is in terms of recarpeting. So we want to see how that has impacted traffic. Has it reduced the traffic flow on this specific route? That is just what we want to find out right now. And this is it, as it branches off from the major Globe Cinema roundabout, coming all the way just as you leave Thika Road via Muranga Road, coming through the Globe roundabout as you get to branch off to this specific slip road, which is Kirinyaga Road, as you head over to the other side of City Center. Part of the reason as to why this road was being recarpeted is because along this route, there's a lot of businesses. Talk about the small-scale, medium-scale businesses, a lot of them along this specific route. So to make it easy, at least for those business traders, to make it easy, those plying this route as you head over to the other side of CBD around downtown area, at least just to make it easy for those persons, this is why it was also recarpeted. And this is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Green all through, no traffic at all. In fact, throughout the entire stretch as you leave the Globe roundabout, coming through the same route, and again also as you leave the other side of downtown, coming through Kirinyaga Road as you head over to the Globe roundabout and joining Timoi Avenue, that is inside the CBD, and again also leaving that area, coming through Kipande, Muranga Road, as well as the other side of University Way. So coming all through this specific road on both of these lanes, just as I'm mentioning to you, smooth sailing, no traffic at all. Again, it only simply means for our viewers coming from areas around, this is Thika Super Highway, if at all you're coming to the city center on those other sides which I've just mentioned via this specific route, then this is again also the best time for you to do that because there's no traffic at all. It's just a slight snarl up, in fact a manageable kind of traffic on that section as you get to branch off from that roundabout, but it's only on that particular intersect there. All through past that area, it's green all through, no traffic at all. It's not changing so it just means it's a smooth sailing all through. However, where you'll just have to make do with that traffic, if at all you are heading over to that route, is around the roundabout on that section, just as you leave again Muranga Road, coming through the Globe roundabout. But also around this specific roundabout is still green all through, no traffic at all. It's so interesting because in this time of the morning hour around this roundabout, given the fact that it's one of those busy roundabouts, simply because it branches off to major roads as well as slip roads, key among them being University Way, coming through Moi Avenue, Muranga Road, which is what we are looking at, Kipande Road, as well as Kirinyaga Road. So oftentimes, especially this early morning hour, would witness more of the red and the maroon, a clear indicator of the heavy kind of traffic not moving at all, at a standstill, or even moving at a very slow pace. But as of now, that is not the situation. So it just looks like at least part of what either NMS, Kura or Kenha is doing in terms of either road reconstruction, recarpeting or expansion on most of these roads inside the city center or even away is really serving its purpose, because again, in as much as part of them at least reducing the number of death cases on most of these major roads is also to reduce on the traffic flow. And again, this is still how this specific route is looking like. That is Kirinyaga Road. Nothing is changing. Green all through, no traffic at all, moving at a very fast pace. So we quickly look at one of those roads, which is also what we are focusing on this morning. This is Muranga Road, again coming all the way from Thika Super Highway. Still the same situation. Nothing has changed. Green all through. Just on some sections next to Fig Tree area is where there's a bit of a traffic, but still again a manageable kind of traffic. Away from there, still on that section, again coming to the city center is actually where we are witnessing that. But around also this area, it is a bus terminus. So clearly what we are seeing is basically again what you'd expect to see. But at least, like I mentioned, it's a manageable kind of traffic on the other section or on the other lane as you leave areas around Moi Avenue, City Center, which is in City Center, leaving Globe, coming through Muranga Road on that section, green all through, no traffic at all. So it also simply means for our viewers coming from CBD, coming from Kirinyaga Road, coming from Kipande Road, University Way, if at all you are heading to Thika Super Highway or any kind of areas along that route, then this is also still the best time for you to do that, because as of now, it's green all through on that section. And even on that area where we were witnessing a bit of a traffic, which is on the inner lane of this route, you can remember that earlier on we were seeing a bit of the orange color, which just means that traffic had begun to slightly build up there, but right now it has changed. So it just means that it has opened up altogether, and that's why we're seeing that green color, which is a clear indicator of no traffic, swift moving at a very fast pace. Also, it's very important for me to mention that around this roundabout, given that it's one of those busy as well as major roundabouts here in the city center, oftentimes the traffic police are usually stationed just up and early on this slip roads, which is Kipande Road, which is what we're looking at. There's Muranga Road as well as also coming to the city center via Moi Avenue. They're always stationed up and early to try and see how best they can control traffic. So clearly that could also be a good reason as to why we are not seeing that heavy kind of traffic. So again, how also about we look at one of those roads, which is what we are also focusing on, which is again Kipande Road. Still the same situation as how it was earlier on. I mean, today is really very interesting because on most of these slip roads, at least as of now, more of what you would see is either the heavy kind of traffic moving at a very slow pace, or even at a standstill, most especially on this particular slip road, which is Kipande Road, coming all the way from Parklands via Ojijo. But clearly as of now, this is how it is looking like. Still just the same as how Muranga Road as well as Kirinyaga Road is looking like, green all through on both of these lanes. So again, it just means as you leave Parklands coming via Ojijo through Kipande, as well as also leaving the Globe roundabout, coming through the same route as you head over to that specific road, going all the way to Westlands, green all through, no traffic at all. So it also simply means that if you are coming from areas around Westlands, Parklands, coming all the way from Ojijo, if at all you intend to use this route, because also oftentimes it serves as a very good alternative route for those that don't want to keep using Wayaki Way as you head over to the city center, simply because of the heavy kind of gridlock, especially around University roundabout coming through CBD. So oftentimes it serves as a very good alternative route, and clearly as of now it could still serve that purpose, because this is how it is looking like, green all through, no traffic at all. But again, you can remember that I also told you that part of the reason as to why we are not really seeing the heavy kind of traffic on this route is simply because of the closing of Nairobi, because also this route serves as a good route for those vehicles coming from the outskirts of Nairobi. Talk about counties of Western as well as Nyanza part of the country. So that is not, being seen right now. So again, that could also be a good reason as why we're not seeing that kind of heavy traffic. And also, in addition to that, there has not been a lot of ongoing roadworks, either in terms of expansion, recarpeting, reconstruction of this particular route, as how we have seen, especially on areas or roads around Kirinyaga Road. So this is again also why we are perhaps not seeing that kind of heavy traffic on this specific route. So it also means that on that route, this is Kirinyaga Road, it's also one of those routes that we continue to keep an eye on to just see how all this process being done by Kura is continuing to impact and affect the traffic flow on that route. But as of now, this is the road situation on those three specific routes, which have been our focus this Tuesday.
Is the traffic, and of course we are back, and this is People and Politics on KBC Channel 1. You can get in touch with me, send in your comments, questions at victorlow@KBC Channel 1, and of course we are going to do this until 9 a.m. before we take you to the Supreme Court, where the interview for the next Chief Justice will be taking place. And now we are going to be joined by Hamisi Mboga and of course Joseph Simeka, who are going to help us to delve more into this topic today, people and politics. And of course we are going to talk a range and a wide array of issues affecting you and the country at large, even as we head towards this particular day of the Ramadan. And of course, as we said earlier, Ramadan Karim to our Muslim brothers and sisters. And now, straight to the discussion. Let's start this discussion. We are going to talk about the issue of whatever happened yesterday at the Supreme Court, and we're going to talk about again about a bit of some politics and health matters here and there. And we are going to appreciate if you could send us your questions, comment in this. I will be able to sample them during this program. So let me start with you, Hamisi Mboga. Welcome, gentlemen, and good to see you from wherever you are. To Hamisi Mboga, Ramadan Karim, how are you doing? Good morning.
Thank you
Let me
very
start
much,
with you.
Victor, thank you very much. I'm talking from Mombasa. Mombasa is cool, but there's no rain, but we're happy.
Okay, let's just get straight to this, Hamisi, now that you have started the conversation now. We've seen a couple of reactions from last week on Thursday. Governors meeting Deputy President William Ruto, and now there are some denials that something of that kind never happened. What do you see out of this?
Thank you, Victor. One time, I think in the last episode, we were talking about the relationship between the president and the deputy president. That some people say it is so much strained. And also we talked about the president and the right honorable opposition leader, so to say. And I said, politics is a very strange animal. Things can change overnight. And we can see now, those on the ground, we can see movement. People are looking for which partner, which party, for the purpose of either highlighting themselves or the stake. So you will see very, very many movements until we stabilize, until the nomination is done. It may not even stop here. So the movement, the meeting between the deputy party leader of ODM and Honorable Ruto may it's confusing, because if I had not informed my party leader, but I was called, I didn't expect to see so-and-so, but we met. You must read between the lines. What is happening? Is this testing the waters? Is it testing the movement? So to me, it's politics. It's politics, and it is interesting, and it's going to unfold as fast as possible as we go into 2022. So there may be some relationship. Some of us are saying maybe he was called alone so that he can move into the new outfit, or he was sent to get some information. And until now, as long as President Uhuru has not spoken, and we hear now the deputy president is saying, no, I think that is not the issue, then there must be a lot of current under the water. So this is politics, really politics, and we shall see more.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Hamisi. Let me come to you, Joseph Simeha. And is it just safe to say that all this is, and by the way, Joseph, good background, I can see you are comfortably in the village itself.
Yes, I'm in my home.
I
am in my home, and you are right, I'm very comfortable.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's get into it. Is it safe to say that these talks about an alliance between Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga was just hot air? Is it safe to say such?
I don't think it's safe to say that. First of all, Victor, I think discussing whether so-and-so met and this one met and the other one met, we may not derive so much value from it, because there are so many people who have ability to meet and stage photo ops to get us talking and excited and so on. Perhaps what we need to worry about is what their organizing philosophy is, what the agenda is, what the interests are, what they are meeting about. If only we could find that out, and people like yourselves in the media should really do a lot more to help Wananchi dig out that, because otherwise, as Zeboga says, Mboga says, all manner of people in politics, all manner of people can meet at any time, but the determining factor is interests. So right now, what we should be sort of worrying and getting jittery about it, what are the interests that the people are pursuing? Do they have any common organizing philosophy? Is there a common agenda? When we begin to answer those questions, then we do this analysis from a point of view that helps Mwananchi to determine then what they make of those meetings. But otherwise, anybody, I'm telling you in politics, anybody in this country can meet at any time, even the ones you think are the worst enemies, don't get fooled. They can meet at any time in pursuit of interests, in protection of interests, in preservation of interests. So where does that leave you and I and the rest of Wananchi of Kenya? So hopefully, as we get into this, as days roll by, inshallah, we should be trying to find out what are the interests so-and-so is pursuing, and this group is pursuing, and that group is protecting, and what about mine, and what about yours, and what about county and national interests? I think that is what really would push me, to focus on in what we are discussing this morning.
But Joseph, we all know that Governor Paranya is the deputy party leader of ODM, and him meeting the deputy president amidst all these conversations and allegations of an alliance, we cannot wish this away, Joseph.
No, we cannot wish away, and that's why I'm telling you, I'm actually not saying that we wish it away. I am just saying that while they stage those meetings, and for your information, when you see photographs and video and whatnot coming out, it's not by accident or by some investigative journalism. No, it's because those who are meeting want us to see those photographs, want us to know that they met. I'm just saying that how I wish and I hope that we would dig further and understand what interests is, for example, the ODM party leader pursuing his interests, the interests of the people of Kakamega, the interests of ODM as a party, or the interests of the party leader of ODM. So I'm not suggesting in any way that we wish away, but I'm just saying that how I wish we had a lot more on the table. I know right now we may not, but it's important for those who are listening and watching us to know, please look beyond those meetings. Let us look a lot more beyond those meetings. What is it that is making them meet? And I describe that as interests. What interests push them to meet? Do they really have any common organizing ideology, or is just that if we get together, we can protect this and that interest? That really is what I'm pointing you, that direction, I'm pointing in that direction.
All right, and just to push you again, do you think an alliance between Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga is possible?
I'll go to what my brother Hamisi was saying earlier. Katika siasa, any alliance is possible with anyone. The determining factor is interests. The moment Raila Odinga and William Ruto realize that, the moment it dawns on them that there is certain interests that by coming together they can protect their own as individuals, as parties, as political positions and so on. The moment they realize that there are certain interests that by coming together they can protect, and by coming together they can pursue and achieve, they will, regardless of the differences. So you never take these differences as personal. And even if they're personal, when a certain interest is threatened, you ignore those personal differences, because those interests to you are higher than the small personal differences that make you clash in public. So it is possible.
All right. Amisi, coming to you, as you answer that question as well, whether the alliance between ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto is possible, let me ask you this. What would that therefore portend to the Mount Kenya voting bloc?
Yes, my reaction, maybe I just go back a little to add fire into the fuel, or the fuel into the fire. In what my brother James has said, the interest. For example, if we are theorizing, some of us do those theorizing. We know the deputy party leader of ODM has finished terms, and is interested in the seat, in the position number 1. And maybe if he digs out and he finds out that he may not be nominated number 1, he can't be governor again, so he has to find, like what James said, interest. What next, or what else? Who can offer him a position that he can hold on as a person? We're talking to the deputy party leader of ODM as a person. If that is so, then he'll find the best place to sit. If he stays in ODM and he knows he cannot be the nominated candidate, he cannot be, maybe in future after election, he cannot be the deputy, what else can he do? If somebody else offers him a position that he can compare and contrast, you will see some movement. Because you cannot be called to a meeting at night and you're not given the agenda, and you see some other people. Yes and no. It may be true, but you must have an indication. This meeting I'm called to go, what is it about? So that is one. Two, the issue that an alliance are possible. Right now we can see an alliance of Jubilee section party with ODM, or the President Uhuru and Mheshimiwa Raila Omolo Odinga. But anything else can happen if that, I'm starting with a threatening. If that handshake is threatened, you can't stop people from looking for alternatives. But it's so hard how far we have gone. To me, it's so hard to be able to break that until, like I said last time, until these two people, I know some people with their team, they're saying something, but until these two people say enough is enough, we are breaking handshake. I can't see relationship Raila Omolo Odinga and the deputy president. The waters are so deep. To swim, you need to have a bigger fish. So I'm saying there is a possibility, but it's comparatively it's lower. And if you hear, for the last 2 weeks, we've been hearing ODM may join Jubilee or the party that deputy president is there, or the deputy party leader, the deputy president may join ODM. Ask one question. Which position, if they negotiate, if it were you and me and James, we're joining together, we must go preempt because everybody wants number one. Who will be number one? Is it Mheshimiwa Raila or is it Mheshimiwa Ruto?
Yes.
If that doesn't work, the relationship will not be there. I can't see the deputy president having been a deputy president twice and then becoming a deputy president again unless the stakes are so high.
Yes.
So I'm saying yes and no. Yes, there is a possibility, but it's so hard. To me, percentage of not working together is higher than the percentage of working together. Look at the teams. Look at the communication that those teams have had. Mm-hmm. I know in politics, everything is possible in terms of working with your enemy, but sometimes you reach a point where people will attach so much to a personal level that they may decide, no, we can't do it this way.
Yes.
So why don't we, as we theorize, why don't we wait to hear the word from Mheshimiwa Uhuru or Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga?
Yes.
Then this discussion will be short. Two, let's see. I'm told that now members of parliament are being called to be able to address this issue of BBI. Mm-hmm. What happens if the BBI passes the parliament tomorrow or this week? Other dynamics will come.
Right.
Because now people say it's really that the referendum is there. So it will change the scenario for fighting because now people are, if BBI doesn't pass
yes.
and there's no referendum, the structure will be the same. Mm-hmm. What will happen to me as a person? They might be thinking, if BBI passes and those positions are created, what will happen to me? So those are the two political questions that these people are thinking about. And it is possible to change. But unless it is so bad, yes. You know, the relationship between the president and the deputy took a long time to reach that level. But this one between Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Uhuru has not, as far as I'm concerned, as an analyst, political analyst, and also looking at the structures, it is still strong. Yes. Until we hear the call.
Okay. All right. Gentlemen, allow me to, at this particular point, take a break. And of course, we still have so much more to talk about. And of course, the issue of the interview of the next Chief Justice happening at the Supreme Court of Kenya, starting at 9 a.m. this morning. We are going to take a very short commercial break. We have been talking to Hamisi Boga from Mombasa and Joseph Simeha from Vihiga, with the background of being in the village itself. Amazing. Joseph, you win in this. We are taking a very short commercial break. We'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka, kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbit ni bidhaa bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Oh, poor Constanza. She decided not to marry Max because, well, she preferred the school professor, Salvador, right? But 5 years ago, she threw away her chance to have become a Montesinos because she didn't want to abandon you. When you had a mistress, a kept woman. Since you've been asking me so many times, then fine.
Yes,
You want to know us? You can't wait for the surprise?
No.
All right. We're getting married.
What?
Constanza is the only one who matters to me. And to spare her from suffering, I would do anything. Even leave you all, which is what I'm doing now. Just what is it that made you decide to leave Nescafe?
And welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Conversation still continues. With me is Joseph Simeka, who is from Vihiga County, from Ingo itself. He's a political expert and a political analyst as well. And Miss Mboga, who is in Mombasa, is also a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for staying around. Let me start with you, Joseph. Some ODM foot soldiers say that the perceived alliance between ODM leader Raila Odinga and, of course, Deputy President William Ruto is somehow meant to smoothen the perceived rough patches with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Do you think this is the case in this scenario?
I wonder how an alliance between Raila Odinga and William Ruto would smoothen rough patches between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Actually, I think we would make it rougher between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. Going by what we observe in the public domain in terms of the at least political relationship between Uhuru Kenyatta's side and William Ruto's side. I think tragedy is, Ndugu Victor, a lot of what you see happening is dictated by our leaders. I'm a member of ODM, so I know a little bit from the periphery of what happens. Even the MPs that you hear make comments, a lot of them is not because they know of a common agenda, a certain common political agenda. It is because they worry what could happen to Raila Odinga's political fortunes, you know. So that I call that a tragedy, because ideally when political leaders meet, negotiate, coalesce and so on and so forth, they should be driven by the interests of their constituents. It would be that they are responding to pressure from their constituents. Or even if they're the ones coming up with the idea, they test it in terms of putting it out there in the public domain and see how their constituents respond. But you notice even in this discussion, we are more discussing about Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, and so on. Meaning that everything in terms of the power matrix centers around these leaders. Mm-hmm. So even where you hear our MPs, whether they ODM or those who coalesce around William Ruto or Uhuru Kenyatta, largely, most of them have minimal understanding of the agenda of the leaders, and they play catch-up and follow-up. And the biggest worry is what would happen to the fortunes of their leaders, because they know the fortunes of those leaders affect their own personal fortunes. I've used a bit of many words to describe that, to show you the tragedy of our politics, that is not driven so much by the interests of the people, of those who support those leaders, but more of by the calculations of those leaders. So any coalition, were it to happen between Raila Odinga and Raila Odinga and William Ruto, it would be a coalition largely driven by the interests, real and perceived, of Raila Odinga and William Ruto. That should be part of it, but not the only thing. It should also include the interests of their parties, the interests of their constituents, and constituents go beyond their political parties because they're the voters, the citizens of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, so therefore, what would that alliance leave the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Tangula, and other former NASA members?
Any alliance, any serious alliance leaves them where it has always left them. As people trying to hang on to see where they can find a space, like the guys who used to run after Matatu and jump and hang on
right.
to ensure that the Matatu doesn't leave them. Yes. I say this with tremendous respect to them, that to me, they have been very slow in reading opportunities in political dynamics in Kenya. They were extremely painfully slow in reading opportunities in the swearing in of Raila Odinga in early 2018. They were painfully slow in reading opportunities in handshake. They were extremely slow in reading opportunities in BBI. Now they are sort of like Johnny Come lately, sort of wanting to show that, look, we are here, we are going to lead, we are going to do, but unfortunately they don't dictate the terms. It is more or less the three leaders you've been asking questions about, William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, even in silence, who are dictating the terms of what happens in terms of the political deck. So those three, Musalia, Wetangula, not four actually, Musalia, Wetangula, Moi, and Kalonzo Musyoka, they would have to do a lot of work to get anywhere unless someone were to sympathize with them and invite them into a serious coalition. That really is my opinion of having observed them for a long time.
Okay. Amisi, let me come back to you and ask you this particular question. If in a situation, the coalition between ODM leader Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto takes effect, do we see a situation where the One Kenya alliance of the likes of Musalia Mudavadi, Moses Tangula, and all that coming at some point in future to form a coalition government or an agreement with the rest during 2022 after an election?
Yes, brother, if we take that scenario, that Honorable William Ruto solidifies or they establish a relationship between the team and ODM, a lot of things will happen. A lot of things will happen. The Jubilee will be divided further. You will see some people moving into, because in Jubilee right now, there is Jubilee supporting the president and Jubilee supporting the deputy president. Those Jubilee supporting Deputy President Ruto, they'll be happier because they're getting more support. Like what James has said, it's interest, it's strength. You can see as late as the day before yesterday, Mheshimiwa Weta, I'm using the short wave. Mheshimiwa Weta said, why doesn't ODM endorse us? If it was alliance, it was strong enough. Why do they need endorsement? And there are a few months they are saying, we don't need any endorsement from anybody. But to realize that endorsement means getting a big support. Anybody who is going to be supported or endorsed by Raila Odinga, if he's not standing, will have a bigger chunk of results. Anybody who will be supported, will be endorsed by William Ruto, but it's unlikely because he wants to be in that seat, will make effect because there's a basket of supporters and votes. Anybody who's going to be endorsed by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, that team, let's watch out, that team will be stronger. So as we are concerned, coming back to the same view with James, is three actors will determine 2022 direction. Dismantling of the parties will come. Movement from party to party will come. If I were the new alliance, I would quickly talk to these three figures.
Yes.
Say what role can we play in ODM for the sake of their own interest, or what role can they play in Jubilee, William Ruto, or what place can they play in Uhuru's, because Uhuru is not a candidate.
Yes.
So his support is direct to anybody who will be in line with the original ideas that he has. So these people must move very fast, and we can advise them. The earlier they do that, the better. The moment they realize that the deputy president and the president will not talk in terms of working together, then let them take that advantage to join one of them seriously.
Yes.
When they were forming this, we had an idea maybe the president would support them. But we can't see that support because the people who speak for the president have not spoken about this new alliance. So this thing has not, in Kenya so far, until further notice, we shall be moving politically around those three pillars. The president of Kenya, deputy president, and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. They are strong pillars of the new change coming in 2022. And everybody is seeing that. How they play around, how you play with them, whatever you have, whatever interest you have, if you don't join a bigger team, you will not score.
Okay, still on that, Hamisi, you've spoken about the three gentlemen. The question is, what role President Uhuru Kenyatta play come 2022 presidential succession politics?
I want to answer it in two ways. One,
yes,
whatever team that will be supported by Uhuru will get bigger say in parliament.
Right.
It may not be, but it will have a bigger say in parliament. And in that case, if BBI passes and the position are confirmed, the new position that have been proposed are confirmed, I can see a lot of movement because the president of Kenya cannot stand 2022, but does not stop that president of Kenya to hold any other position. I don't see it in the constitution. So he can be the deputy president. We have seen it in other countries. He can be the prime minister. He can be anything but in the system. And of course, that is another interest. We have seen that some presidents who are young support for the legal aspect can always come back. If our thinking, if Mheshimiwa Uhuru and Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga agrees and Odinga becomes the president and Mheshimiwa Uhuru becomes anything else, he has a chance of 2022 plus 5 to come back. And in politics, if you're out, even if you're a member of parliament, if you're out for too long, people will forget you. So you have to be in the system. So I still feel that the debate, the fight will be between ODM and William Ruto. But let's not forget these other people. They have a team. The team is carrying a lot of support, is also carrying a lot of votes. I can see approachment. I can see people going to Kalonzo. The only thing you can destroy that alliance is to pull a few out. And goodies are there to pull them out. You can say, come join us, take vice president, come join us, become prime minister. They will quickly come back here. They will forget about that alliance because of the stake of 2022. You see that all the constitution affected political big shots because if you fail as a presidential candidate, you don't have any other seat. So people, this new constitution and the referendum and the BBI is going to give them a window of holding on into political space and political power. This is my way of seeing. It may not be the real thing, but I think you will see a lot of changes. But watch out, William Ruto, watch out, ODM, and watch out the first value and first movement of President, where he focuses his people will say, I think the president supports this. We shall support it or we shall not support it.
All right. Abesi, thank you. Gentlemen, we are just shifting this discussion slightly. And of course, going to Joseph Simeha. And of course, gentlemen, the big elephant in the room right now is the interview for the CJ, next CJ, who is going to succeed the retired Chief Justice David Maraga. Yesterday, Justice Said Shitembwe was the first one to face the panel. Joseph, were you satisfied by what transpired yesterday at the Supreme Court?
Tricky question on whether I was satisfied or not satisfied. I think I'm just satisfied that the Judicial Service Commission is doing the right thing in terms of carrying out those interviews and massively, having them public so that we can watch and follow. But perhaps, if I may just go slightly beyond your question, when I look at what is playing before us, began to play before us, or even just from the time of applications when they were made public, I could see a signal, and I think a number of people have shared this publicly with me, this is personal. I could see a signal that these positions attracted a very small pool of judicial professionals, leaving out many more. Not that those who in the small pool do not qualify, at least they do have the basic qualifications, but there are many more outside that pool that applied who a lot of Kenyans would have wished to see apply. That was the first signal that I think we need to worry about even before these interviews. Now, coming to the interviews and watching from what was happening yesterday, I keep going back to Article 159, Chapter 10 of the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, vesting of judicial authority, deriving of judicial authority from the people. Besides looking at the professional qualifications, the meritocracy, looking at professional experience, the technical side of this, I'm listening to the candidates to see whether, again, there is some kind of philosophy, ideology that connects what they aspire to do with the aspirations of the people or the citizens of the Republic of Kenya. There's a tendency for technical people like judicial officers to disconnect and go about their work as if it's only about the technical application of the law that, is determining who is guilty, who is not guilty, who is right, who is wrong, and so on and so forth. I listened yesterday, I was somewhat disappointed, not in terms of the basic qualification of the candidates, not in terms of the elaboration of their technical know-how and how they would go about their work, issues of jurisprudence, which I do not have authority to comment on. But listening, do they respond to questions with an understanding, a deep understanding of the philosophy that should drive the judiciary, the ideology that should drive the judiciary, the link between their work and the aspirations of the people of the Republic of Kenya? More or less like what I was telling you earlier when we were discussing the political side. Some connection you can tell is missing when you listen to people. It is almost like people looking for a job. It's beyond a job, my brother. It's service in an office of state, a very high office of state, upon which this constitution confers a huge responsibility in terms of connection with the aspirations of the people. So those words in the constitution about deriving this authority from the people of Kenya are not just empty words. We should hear, I hope, from today going forward, those who appear before Judicial Service Commission connect the role of the judiciary in building a republic, the role of the judiciary in restoring our democracy, the role of the judiciary in entrenching political accountability, accountability in public office, the bigger questions, rather than those people who are taken to court and who is right and who is wrong, who is guilty and who is not guilty.
All right. Fine. As you can see on your screen right there, it's all system go. And you can see that hot seat when you see the flag on the left and on the right, depending on where you're watching from, and you see the table and the seat already said, that is the hot seat. The next interview today is Patricia Mbote, who is going to face the Judicial Service Commission to be interviewed for the position of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. And of course, we are going to give you that live feed from the Supreme Court live as from 9 a.m. And of course, KBC is the only place to watch this. We will give you all the details as from 9 a.m. That is the situation there. All right, moving on. Hamisi from Mombasa, let me just give you this, let me ask you this question now. We saw tears yesterday. Was it just a matter of taking emotions to the next level during an interview, or was Justice Chitembwe a bit genuine about this?
Yeah, my thinking and what I saw and what happened.
Yes.
First of all, I'm supporting James on what kind of questions could be asked the person who's going to be holding office, one of the pillars of this government.
Yes.
One of the arms of the government. The question that I would be able to set up for them is, give us your background and experience in law while you want to do this job. Two, what does this job entail in terms of its roles, responsibility, and especially networking between the judiciary, the parliament, and the executive. That is, we have suffered because of lack of coordination, lack of network in this. So those are the questions that we can ask any candidate, so that we know the deep inside. What does this role mean to you, and also means to the country? What specific functions are you going to organize to see that you bring us the picture? Before, if they give us their philosophy, how would you achieve the functions as stated in the law, and what you think you can put, the strategies? But if you ask personal questions, not a single Kenyan may escape criticism in terms of what they did before. To me, I would ask serious questions about what will you do? If you say, what did you do? Why did you make these decisions? It's getting into a personal level that you did wrong or you did right. If I did wrong and right, why was I nominated? Why was I shortlisted? Because there must be more people who applied, and the ones shortlisted should be almost a possibility of any one of them to hold that office. There I'm expecting really functions discussed, roles discussed, challenges of the office discussed, and how I would be able to implement my responsibility in line of the Constitution, but in line with this philosophy. And the missing link is relationship between the three arms of the government.
All right. Sibeka, let me just bring you this, drop you in this discussion. The former Chief Justice had his fair share with the executive. Now, what do you think the next CJ will do to mend that bridge between the judiciary and the executive?
Thank you very much.
Sorry, is it? Can I go, or is it James?
Yes, Joseph. Joseph, carry on.
Yes. I was good. Thank you very much, Victor. I was just going to tell you that I always like to try and move away the spotlight from Maraga the man. It's not Maraga the man, but the judiciary. And what the current regime from 2013 did to the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya is a tragedy. And I say this and hope that people follow and understand beyond, just apportioning blame.
Yes.
Because the attacks on a Chief Justice, especially by the political class and particularly by one arm of government, the executive side of government, unwarranted attacks. Not that they are immune to public scrutiny. No, we must scrutinize the judicial officers. We must comment on their work. We must comment on their conduct. Even the president, I think is free to comment on their work and conduct. But when you look back, for me, I see a systematic attack that over time has weakened the judiciary, although it was personified in the person of Maraga, because then he was the head of the judiciary.
Yes.
It's still a raw nerve, very, very raw. The wound is still there in the judiciary. So whoever comes just comes to continue, just inherits that very raw and painful wound that has been inflicted on the Kenyan judiciary, majorly by the executive side of government, which is really a tragedy, even for the very same executive.
Yes.
Because I tell you, the very same people who have led attacks against the judiciary will very soon, inshallah, need that judiciary to protect them in their individual capacity. Remember, public office, it's something that, even if you stay in public office for too long by force, eventually you're released either by death or by some other cause, natural or otherwise. So the very same people who have led these very unwarranted, unfortunate attacks against the judiciary, such that a lot of people who would have loved to serve in the judiciary are afraid. A lot of people within the judiciary who would like to make decisions that contribute to the building of our democracy, the building of our republic, the cohesion of our society, are even afraid to make those decisions, lest they, attract the eye of these people. May soon discover that this act of justice may soon discover where it bends towards.
Yes.
And what they have done may actually soon come back and bite them. We shouldn't though wait for that. We should, especially as a nation headed towards making a political transition, political election that allows us to make decisions, factor that in when we make our decisions. Have political leaders that understand the importance of the other arm of government called the judiciary.
Joseph, you've raised a very important point there, but is it safe to say that the selection of Chief Justice, therefore, is more of political than professional, now that we are heading to 2022 presidential election?
Those two things are not mutually exclusive. As I was saying earlier, the head of the judiciary is not just a technical person. In fact, he's less of a technical person and more of a leader. And when you talk about leadership and governance, the politics come in. So we can't run away from that. Inevitably, there would be forces trying to influence, to bear on that selection. You can't really avoid that. But hopefully the Judicial Service Commission, rises to the occasion and discharges its duty, obligation to Kenyans, in accordance with Chapter 10 of the Constitution on the Judiciary, Article 159, remembering that they are choosing the head of the judiciary on behalf of the people of Kenya, so that that head of the judiciary may lead the judiciary to help us to manage a political transition. I won't worry about people trying to influence. I would worry about the Judicial Service Commission yielding to this undue influence, and therefore serving the interests of a few individuals instead of their oath of office in accordance with the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. So yes, the politics do have a role. The person who will be chosen is both a technical person and a political stroke governance leader of the judiciary, and therefore the selection of and appointment of this person has political dimensions. But that shouldn't be allowed to mean sectarian or exclusive political interests. It shouldn't be allowed to mean that. Okay.
Thank you, Joseph, for that. Let me bring in Amisi briefly, and just to ask him this now. We've had judiciary's Chief Justice saying that, that is the former Chief Justice David Maraga saying that there is so much that the judiciary and members of the judiciary are supposed to take care of in terms of backlog of cases and so forth, so much more. How then do you think the next Chief Justice is going to expedite these cases? Because now we've gone digital as we speak.
Maybe if I come in, I want to also say that actually this process is very political. The output is supposed to be technical, but the process itself is very political because that arm of government, the political government, both the executive and the parliament, the two arms of government, have an interest in judiciary because of their interests. Therefore, like my brother said, you'll see a lot of influencing, because sometimes if you are out there, you want somebody who will sit in that office to protect whatever position at stake I have. So that a lot. Remember, if we listen to the former justice, he was always crying, I want to do this, but I can't because of resources and finances. So you need somebody who will break through that barrier, because it's a really, they said if we get such amount of money, we'll open more courts, we'll employ more people, and therefore this backlog will be reduced. But I wish we could advise whoever is going to be picked to do what the president of Tanzania, the current president of Tanzania, is doing, and do what decisions that were made that may not be in law, that may not be in support of the public of Kenya. So he or she should also play that role of undoing wrongs and also trying to soften the ground, because it was so tight that the judiciary is saying this, wants this, and the other arms of government are not supporting. So that area of relationship, to me, is so crucial for the new person who is coming in. They should be able to communicate instead of judiciary coming into the media. We have no money, therefore we shall not do this. And you are part of the three arms of the government. You are able to even pick a phone or go to the other people and discuss. So there was that gap, and that communication gap destroyed many functions that would have improved our governance system in Kenya. So the new person who comes, please find a way of communicating, talking, collaborating, working together, but firm and in law. I think that will put Kenya very far. And of course, every person can be criticized, and there will be a lot of criticism, even for former Chief Justice and those who are anti-former justice inside the judiciary, inside the country. So it's a very hot seat. People will refrain from wanting to be in that seat, to be friend alive, if I use that strong word. But it's a very interesting, and it's one of the most important pillar of this governance system in Kenya.
Yes.
So I'm worried the interview should be moderate. The interview should not dig open cases that were closed before. The interview should be what do you understand about the functions? How will you do it? What strategy will you support? Will you ask, and from where? And goodwill from all people who matter. That will save Kenya.
All right. Hamisi, thank you. Thank you so much. And that was Hamisi Boga from Mombasa. And we've been speaking to Hamisi Boga from Mombasa, who is a political analyst, and Joseph Simeha from Ingo itself, who is also a governance expert and a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your valid time. But Joseph, my director says that, all right, okay. So as you can see that, we have got that live feed from the Supreme Court of Kenya, a clear signal that the next candidate to face the panel to be interviewed for the position of the next Chief Justice, that is Patricia Mbote, is soon walking on that red carpet to face the panel anytime from now. All right? Of course, those are journalists. That is not Patricia Mbote. Okay? She's just about to walk in to the Supreme Court and face the panel. Today is her day. Whether she's going to be the one or any other person, that will be determined in the next few weeks. All right. That brings us to an end of GMK Good Morning Kenya. My name is Victor Lowe, and on behalf of the entire crew, my co-anchors and presenters, thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourself. This is GMK. And all right, yes, before we go, that is Anna Madi, the Registrar of the Supreme Court. And that is Patricia Mbote. That is a beautiful shot. Ladies on the front, leading the way. That is Patricia Mbote in a blue dress, and in front is Registrar of the Supreme Court, Anne Amadi, and here they go. Beautiful. We are right on time. I told you, this is the place, and there she goes. As always, the protocol is going to be followed, all right? The protocol is going to be followed. They are going to make sure that everything is going to be done. So, let's stop it at that. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's do this again tomorrow. My name is Victor Law, and on behalf of everyone else, have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya joking kwa simu yako, bonyeza star 811 star 758 hash. Good morning, class. Good morning, Mr. Victor. Now I want to write a composition using the word jogging. Victor, please give us spelling for the word jogging. Sitasema jogi ile jogi ya kunyongwa, rana. Ninasema jogging. Na sitasema jogi ile ndio unasema jogi ya kukimbia ya marathon, ama ile jogi ingine ile jogi ya television ya kucheka. Sitasema hiyo jogging, na maanisha jogging ya brand ile kukimbiza akili cha changamoto. That composition using the word jogging. Ili kupata skiza tune hii, bonyeza star 811 star 758 hash, star 811 star 758 hash.
This game has been in our blood for a thousand years. On your couch. Your focus to your teamwork, fitness. Make your deal. Power up all four corners. If I hit them all, we all win. I gotta see this. Your state championship, equipment battles, and powerful coverage of battle.
Don't you ever, not for 1 second.
Is this the day David slays Goliath?
This game's not about that. This game's about us.
Today, we return the cross that people.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickbit ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitazama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickbit ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Your mask, I think the social distance there is good enough so that you can see your face. Thank you. Thank you. I think now we can start. Professors, as you are aware, we are compelled by law to take care of diversity issues. So I'll request you to tell us your county and also your ethnicity.
I was born in the county of Murang'a, so I am Kikuyu. It doesn't follow, but I am Kikuyu.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll start, Professor, by asking you a question. I know my colleagues who are lawyers and judges will get more into the role of CJ, but I wanted to hear from you generally what you perceive to be the role of a Chief Justice that you have applied to be.
Thank you very much. The Chief Justice is the administrative, intellectual, and intellectual and judicial head of the judiciary. As the administrative head of the judiciary, he or she has a number of roles, which actually include oversight, because the CRJ, that is the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, is the person with the authority to incur expenditure. So the Chief Justice oversees that. As the President of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice is primus inter pares. He is a first, or she is a first among equals. Because they're going to lead the intellectual and also the judicial functions that the Chief Justice performs. The Chief Justice is also a chair of a number of committees. One is an internal committee, which is the Judiciary Law Advisory Council. And then there is also the leadership of the National Council for the Administration of Justice. He or she also chairs the National Council for Law Reporting and this esteemed commission, the Judicial Service Commission.
Okay. Thank you, Professor, for that question. Professor, when we had the stakeholders consultations, a lot of them wanted a leader, a CJ who is a leader who is able to, to lead the over 4,000 judicial officers and staff, and also a leader who is going to lead the third arm of government. So my question to you, Professor, is what unique leadership qualities will you bring as a CJ if you are successful?
I will start with the one that is immediately discernible, which is the fact that I would be able to be an intellectual leader. But beyond that, I am also a person who has extensive experience in leading diverse teams. I have been Dean of the School of Law, University of Nairobi, which is the largest law school in this country, for an aggregate of 5 years. I say aggregate because the first time I was the dean was in 2003, 2004, when students sent away the then dean, and it fell on me to lead the school. And that was a very difficult time because the students had actually locked out the dean. Then I was elected as dean between 2012 and 2016. Beyond that, I've also started a law school that is probably known to many of you, Strathmore Law School. And in starting the Strathmore Law School, I did the work of business planning, but also identifying the staff that were necessary. I have led institutions that are international. I've been an acting executive director of an international non-governmental organization, the African Center for Technology Studies. I have also established institutions. I'm not just a leader, I'm actually an institution builder. I actually build institutions that are fledgling, and the institutions that are not even there, I established, like Strathmore Law School. And if you look in the web, I started the International Environmental Law Research Center as a student at Stanford, which was to avail materials for students studying in Stanford who are not able to get resources. I've also established an organization, Women and Law in East Africa, and the Southern and Eastern African Research Center on women's law. I have chaired and also been a member of many boards, not just nationally. I've been a member of the International Development Law Organization Board. I've also chaired the Water Services Water Services Regulatory Board. I have chaired the Kenya School of Law Board. And actually, as Dean, I chaired, I think for me, the most difficult board of more than 80 lawyers. So that would be where I'd stop, Chair.
Okay. So, Professor, my other question is, as you have explained, you are a great leader. You have done a lot of work, and especially in the academia and also public service, as you have explained. But from your CV, Prof, you haven't been a legal practitioner in terms of being either on the bar or on the bench. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like you to convince the Commission and Kenyans that you are up to the task, even though you have not argued cases or written judgments. What do you say about that, Prof?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think in 2010, when Kenyans decided that they would open up the Supreme Court for academics, it was in realization that academics do bring in value to the bench. And the value that academics bring to the bench is a value that complements sitting judges and legal practitioners. And I should probably have said that practice of law is not really just about going to court. I probably have a lot more practice of law and practice within the judiciary because I have been engaged in a lot of judicial work.